Not tonight. Well. We'll see when Larry, see there. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals for our hearing September 9th, 2025. It's now 7 p.m. So it's our published and appointed time to begin our meeting as it's been disclosed on public notices. My name is Rob Champetti. I have the privilege of serving as the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm going to take a moment and introduce other members of the board. We're in sort of close quarters. Normally this room is wide open all the way to the back, but this is actually better. It allows us to both hear and be heard. Once I introduce the members of the board, we'll establish a legal forum to determine that we have the legal ability to undertake the business of the TBA this evening. For those of you that may have either prepared yourselves with a copy of the agenda, or seen a copy of the link, everything that we're doing is also published on the city's website under the Zoning Board of Appeals page. We'll be following the agenda based on the sequence in the agenda. So unless there's any reason to switch or change, that's typically what we do. Once I introduce the members of the board, we establish that we have a legal forum. We'll open our public hearings. What I'd like to do before we get started doing that is I'll walk everyone through sort of a quick snapshot and sort of lay of the land, how we conduct our business before the zoning board. And this way, anyone in the room who may be new to attending this sort of a public hearing will understand sort of what to expect and how we conduct our business. So without further ado, I will take a moment, we'll call the roll, we'll get things underway, and we'll begin with business on our agenda this evening. Calling the roll of the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals, Mr. Ken Swan, here. Mr. Stephen Delat, here. Mr. Walter Chen, here. Mr. Larry Gint, not arrived yet, but I understand he's coming. Mr. Jared Eigerman, here. And who do we have online? Scratch. And also attending though remotely this evening, we have Ms. Gretchen Joy, who's our keeper of the minutes. She has the unenviable task of having to type everything that everyone says. So to that point, and I'll repeat this again, when it comes to public comment, we will ask just so we can be easily broadcast and heard, as well as published via Zoom. For the time being, the Newburyport CBA conducts a hybrid meeting. We are undertaking rule changes to finally migrate post-COVID to a full in-person model of a public hearing, though folks can still preserve, they won't be able to participate remotely. But for now, we ask that anyone, when you do speak, to kindly take the podium and give your name and address so that Ms. Joy can hear. And the minutes. To my immediate right is Mr. Andy Port, our director, planning director here at Newburyport. So with that, we have established that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voting members of the ZBA. That is, we do have a quorum. Just to establish as a legal standard, it is required that I publish to the audience, to the applicants, as well as any butters or attendees, the 5 voting members each application. For the purposes of all 1, 2, 3, 4 applications that are on this evening, the 5 voting members will be myself, Mr. Swanton, Mr. Delisle, Mr. Shannon, and Mr. Eigerman. And to the extent to which there are any recusals, conflicts, that member of the ZBA will just give notice to the rest of the members and myself, and will be replaced by an alternate member Even a member that is not voting, because we expect Mr. Ginza to arrive and he would be a non-voting participating member. That member still participates in all aspects of the evening, including questions and deliberations. They just simply don't vote. Before we get into our public hearings, I'll take a quick moment and explain how the business of CBA operates. We run by a modified set of rules called Robert's Rules of Order. Those of you that may be familiar with it, it is more formal than other board type of process because we're a legal appellate board of sorts for administrative, volunteer appointed body, but we operate by a more formal set of rules that say the Historic Commission, the Planning Board, and other bodies. That is because we're an appellate board. The way that we conduct our business is I will begin each application by reading the legal notice. That's simply just describing the application's applicant by name, as well as whoever might be speaking on behalf of the application. Well, we will essentially read what is very similar to what you may have seen in the public notice that's published in the newspaper and that's published on our agenda. I then will describe the relief being sought by whether the applicant seeking a special permit, for instance, special permit for non-conformities, or a variance, the types of things that this board has the power to grant. I'll be specific and say the applicant is seeking this sort of relief. And then I'll go even one step further, describe that what the applicant is seeking to do in just very plain and digestible language, just for ease of understanding, so that, God forbid, no one needs to be an attorney in this room to understand what it is we're being asked to do and what it is that seeking. And that would be an example of the applicant seeks all necessary permits to demolish and construct a pre-season room, or to add an upward extension to the roof, except it'll just be in very plain language, so it'll be very easy. So it's going to be the applicant's application, their name, their address, what they're seeking in terms of legal relief, and then a very simple descriptor of specifically what they're looking to do. Once I announce and read the legal description, we will then hear from the applicant. That's the first step in this process. The applicant or their representative, attorneys, architects, engineers, all of the above, one or more of the above, will come forward and present the application. They will take the podium so that it can be broadcast on this device that's right in front of us called the OWL, which is both recording video as well as real-time audio and streaming it to anyone who's logged on. Anything that's being referenced before the board is also on all of our laptops. So you may not necessarily see us looking behind us, but what we see, everyone in this room sees, and anyone online also sees. So applicants will have in advance provided slide decks to Mr. Port so that we can walk through presentation material. Anything being referenced is visible to all of you and all of us all at the same time, as well as online. So this is what you will be seeing, and it's what we see at the same time. Once the applicant has presented the application, we'll then close that portion of the public hearing. I then go to public comment. During public comment, we will have a slide that just gives a quick snapshot of the rules of the road for public comment, but I'll tell you what they are. We will invite anyone in the room who wishes to speak, just kindly raise your hand, and we will recognize you and invite you to take a quick step up to the podium. Give us your name and address if you could, so that Ms. Gretchen Joy can record that in the minutes. And then we invite you to give us your thoughts and your comments. You needn't necessarily be pro or against any application, though you're certainly welcome to identify yourselves as such, but there's no necessary requirement that you're in a column here or another column on the other side. Just simply share your thoughts. We ask that every member of the audience kindly govern yourselves, respectfully and courteously with respect to the general 2-minute timeline. That's with great discretion, which we both have and often very liberally offer, so that folks can finish thoughts. And I'll give you a very courteous sort of tip to sort of wrap things up if it feels like it's going long, but we do that just so that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. We don't, we're not gonna, drop a curtain on you, or there won't be a hook from stage left to snatch you from the podium, but we just ask everyone, just kindly govern themselves with that. Once we go through the room with any comments, we will then go to anyone who might be online, who we will ask to digitally raise their hand on Zoom. We will recognize them by either name and telephone number if they're calling in, and we will ask them to unmute their mic. We will do the same, and the same rules apply. Once we've gone through the room, as well as our online room for comments. We'll close the public comment section and go to the third segment of our board business meeting or our board hearing meetings, which is questions from the board. I want to just say this, that with respect to public comment, should you choose to frame your public comment in the form of a question, we invite you to do that, but please know that we mean you no discourtesy if you do not hear us respond directly in answering that question. It's due to the procedural format that we would not do that, though know that we will be listening carefully to any comments that are framed in the form of a question. And you will almost surely hear one of the members during the questions from the board section reframe, or paraphrase, or even just reiterate a question that you may have posed as part of your public comment. So, so please take that in mind. Again, it's no intentional, inadvertent, or otherwise, movement of disrespect. It's just simply a procedural way that we conduct that section of the meeting. Once we get through public comment, we go to the questions from the board. Members of the ZBA will ask questions, adapt questions with comments that they heard from the audience, as well as their own of the applicant or the applicant's representative. And then we will go through until questions are exhausted from the members of the ZBA, at which point we will close that portion of the public hearing and go to the final segment of our public hearing, which is deliberations. This is when every one of us in this room, yourselves, ourselves, and those online will listen to us toil with the legal criteria out loud in sort of full observable view. We will be dealing with the legal criteria of whatever is being asked of us. We'll talk about strengths and weaknesses, further questions might arise. Once we go through the legal standard of deliberations, we will then close that portion of the public hearing and go to the final step, which is a vote. The vote is operated as follows. I will entertain a motion to approve by any member of the ZBA. I want to also say this, it is always framed in the form of a motion to approve. So it's always a motion in the affirmative, but that's a procedural mechanism. It does not mean that that member of the ZBA supports the application necessarily, or plans to vote in favor of it. It's simply the method by which the motion is placed on the table. It's then seconded by another member. Once it's made and seconded, we will call the roll. And in order for an application to be successful, it must have at least 4 votes of the 5 voting members in the affirmative. So 4 yes votes equals the motion carries, application is approved. So and apologies as well as my gratitude for your indulgence and just sort of listening through that process. I'd like to just make sure for anyone that's new to this process that you know what to expect and have a sense of the organizational structure, what's about to come. So without further delay, I do want to note that Mr. Larry Ginza, our associate member, has arrived, and we will report him as present. Mr. Ginza will be our alternate member unless there is a conflict of recusal with respect to Mr. Ackerman. Mr. Ginza will be participating in every other facet, questions, deliberations, and such. Just won't be voting at the final step. So with that, we will begin with our first application on our agenda. This is the application of Christopher Crow, 455th Street. This is an application for a special permit for nonconformities. The applicant seeks all necessary permits, permissions, and approvals to demolish an existing single-family structure and replace that structure with a new single-family structure on pile foundations in a similar footprint location. May we hear from the applicant? Sir.
Good evening. I'm Chris Crump with CWC Design, representing my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Herbert, at 455th Street, Newburyport, Palm Island. We're here today because our clients would like to take down their existing house and put it up on pilings to create a new home that's a little bit more efficient for them, a little bit easier. So here you have a front view of the house as it is now. Right now they have the entrance or mudroom, as they call it, on the front of the house, which gives it a close proximity to the street and a wraparound front porch that goes around that mudroom. The next picture, please. And this is just to give you a context of the existing structure around the property. Continue. On the back side. And one more. And that's the other side too. And then there's parking on the right-hand side right now for the house. Okay, next slide, please. And these are just existing elevations that we created for the board. Very basic to get the concept down. So here we have the existing and proposed site plan. Some things to note on here, so the proposed footprint is pretty much almost exactly the same or very close to the same of the existing, the proposed is almost exactly the same as the existing. The only thing the difference is, we took the mudroom on the front of the property that is there now and put it on the back. Because most of the time they go up the back stairs to the deck now to get into the house anyhow, so they said, oh, let's just put the mudroom back there. And in doing so, it also gives you a little bit more of a buffer between the front of the house and the front property line. So all the setbacks on here have either stayed the same or actually gotten better. Except for the rear setback, but we're still within the 20-foot rear setback requirement. And we simply just she wanted to have some covered parking, and she's going to put her house up in the air. So we have one spot that's going to be underneath the house right in front. Last week, we went through conservation, and we did get approval from them for everything that was on here. So now we're on our last hurdle, hopefully, to be able to get this approved this evening. The FAR on this actually has decrease, which is probably one of the first times I've ever had that happen on any of my projects. But that's simply because the records on the town records have it at 700 something square feet for the home. It's actually about 806, and then they also have a small finished space in the basement, and they also have a finished stair that goes up to a finished loft area on the second floor that creates another. Trying to put it all together right now, about another 700 square feet. So the existing space, all the finished heated spaces comes out to about 1518, and the proposed heated spaces is about 1462. So in essence, the FAR goes from about 30.31, 0.309 to about 0.29. So we're actually improving almost all aspects of the zoning requirements on this property. The only difference will be the height of the building, because it's being put up on pilings, will be slightly larger, slightly higher, obviously, but it's still well under the height restriction of the zoning bylaws. And that's simply a quick matrix of what we have proposed, and then we submitted it. And here are some basic floor plans. The new layout, they just look like it all nice and open. It does have a wraparound deck on the front, nice front, side-to-side front deck, and a nice rear deck with stairs down to where the parking will be. Both stairs come down to where the parking will be for her underneath the house and to the left-hand side, or right on this diagram. And the next plan is just the second floor. We have it listed as 2 bedrooms and an exercise room, but understandingly, we will be listing it as a 3-bedroom for building requirements, building code requirements and bylaws, but which is still acceptable in Ohio. And this is the proposed front view, which I think gives a lot more curb appeal than the one that's there now. And it again is pushed back further from the existing structure from the front property line. And continue. And just some side, the rest of the elevation profiles. And that's about it. So great. No, I'm happy to answer any questions before me.
Thank you, Mr. We'll close that portion of the public hearing. We'll go to public comment. Anyone in the audience who may wish to speak can actually be application. We'll invite you to just raise your hand and give us your thoughts at the podium. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing no hands, go online. Do not see any. Do you see any? Okay. Seeing none online either. I will go ahead and close public comment. In no specific order, yes, sure.
So in the notice, it says that this is a demolition, a complete demolition of the existing building and a new building. Is that accurate, or are you jacking up the existing building and adding a story?
No, we'll be totally removing the existing structure, building a brand new structure on top.
Any other questions?
I could follow the fire numbers, they look like the building got small. Walk by. It looks like it's getting a lot bigger, so I'm just trying to understand here. Assessors records have first floor at 780 square feet, plus a porch, and enclosed porch of 48, but for some reason they don't count. But I understand that 48. The basement they have is just an unfinished basement. Basically, is that how you get coming back part of the 12 units today?
It becomes, because of two measures. One is the existing footprint, when we measured it out, with my room came out to about 808 square feet.
I'm sorry, what was 380?
I'm sorry. When we measured the existing footprint of the existing measurements of the existing house plus the bump out mudroom on the front, which I believe they're calling both.
Okay, so you get a bigger number than the assessor.
Yeah, our number on the existing FAR, the existing square footage came out to 808. But that, I would imagine that probably includes the existing square footage and that front enclosed porch, which is now completely finished.
Yeah, they get to 828.
Okay, so I have 808, so it's less.
So that's what, most, that's kind of the top floor, the main floor of the
Yeah,
building.
understood. Then they have about 320 square feet or 40 square feet in the basement that has been conditioned. He uses it for his antiques and so forth. He's an antique dealer. And then there is a second floor with finished stairs that go up to a second floor that's in the house.
A lot.
Yes, correct. There's no doors or anything like that.
Is there any window? It's just in the.
Yep, there's two windows on the gables and then there's skylights. And that constitutes another 350 or 60 square feet.
That has enough headroom to count this.
Yes.
That's, all right. Figure it out. I figure.
No, I know. It's deceiving from the outside. It definitely is.
I guess that's because it's all open underneath.
Correct.
Just look like the whole thing went up in the air.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is compensating for the spaces in the basement, the finished spaces in the basement and loft. And adding it to make it a full second floor.
Have you spoken with some of your butters? You got the input from them?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything because we're actually putting it back in the same exact footprint. And we're keeping it under the maximum height of the allowed on the building. We haven't had any objections or any issues.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Further questions? Yes. I wanted to go back to the fire.
Yeah.
So the city thinks the house is 780 square feet, and I think the fire is really low. Because this is basically double the 780. 29, so that means the city thinks the fire is 0.14. How do we deal with the fact that someone's modified the house over time and the fire's gone through the roof and the city doesn't know that?
If you're looking to me, sorry, not having.
Well, like, for instance, when they came up with the matrix.
Yeah.
Were they aware of all these mods?
Yeah, sorry, just I apologize, not having looked into the minute details of this particular application. We try to make sure there's alignment between the calculations in here, and we see the assessor database. I don't know what discussion happened there in terms of the information there in their system and how it's represented here. Presumably there's a administrator who unfortunately we don't have with us this evening, is looking at that and making sure that the calculations are consistent with the ordinance. We're not just, pulling from a database randomly and saying that might be accurate. It's supposed to be based on plans that show the dimensions. So I assume that the FAR that we're looking at here is accurate. I don't want to speak to the accuracy or the sort of discrepancies with the assessors. I do know we have frequent discussion that we have a representative from the assessor's office who's frequently having dialogue with our office and the administrator. So that we're always keeping up to date with the building office and zoning approvals to accurately reflect the square footage in the building.
The reason I'm asking, if the fire today is actually 0.14, at least we think it is.
Yeah.
And we're going to 0.29.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
Than 0.31 down to 0.29.
Agreed.
And right now, we're taking it on the applicant's good faith that those square footages are correct.
I would agree, however, my presumption is coming in here to this even just like the report, and again, I don't go through every single application in detail, the zoning administrator, the planner do. I am under the presumption here that this information has already been reviewed or accuracy against the plan that are shown in the dimension, not based on just the assessor's data.
Do you know if you submitted plans
He did not.
for the way the house is today? It's showing a finished attic and a finished
The
basement.
square footage, how did you,
So because we are tearing down the building, exactly, we did not do existing floor plans, but I have basic measurements of the layout. Just
I would,
so I didn't know when you did the zoning review with Jennifer Flushing, if you happen to know, I presume that she was looking at square footage at that point, it might have been, I don't know whether you had a plan that you were presenting to her at that time, or whether or not there was that data is shown or reflected on the site.
not existing floor plans.
Okay.
No, but I
Again, I can't speak to,
Yeah. I guess that's my concern, is we might be starting at a very low far
and going to a very.
and we're going to a very high far, where we would normally not let you punch through the 0.25, right? But it's 0.31, and we're going down to 0.29, we would be all success. Right? We're making it better. And to Ken's point, this building is double the height. It's 2 full stories. The one that could be a finished cave. And the other thing is, you know, the 300 square feet in the attic, we can only count if there's 7 feet ahead, right? Someone has to go in and say, the eaves don't count.
Again, apologies, I didn't have the discussion with the applicant about the counts, I don't know how much change there was prior to this discrepancy and how it's actually counted.
Let me do this. Thank you. With respect to that, what's the feeling of the board on proceeding with what we have based on our zoning administrators' review and presentment for us? And obviously, we don't need layers of review to do that and see whether it seems to align with what we see. We have the discretion to ask additional questions, to apply additional scrutiny, including requesting additional verification. I will say that in this instance, it seems more likely than not that further refinement may be favorable to an applicant seeking to move to an FAR based if we find that the current floor area ratio is actually higher than what's published. Delta between what they have to what they're requesting is small in that sense. That this is just as easily the case as would be the converse, which would make it worse off for presumably just based on the metrics of dimensional controls and floor area ratio and criteria that allow the district. So what we start with you, Mr. Chairman, what are your thoughts on proceeding? And then I'm gonna, I'd love to just get that thing rolling the rest of the board. I guess just on the surface, my confidence that the existing fire is 131 is. Do you think it's lower? I think it's lower. For a house that size, it's stunned that much. And if it's lower, that makes the delta larger. The delta larger. Now, if it's not 0.31 and let's say it's 0.29, fine. But I got a feeling it's quite a bit lower. What would, we would have the assessor's records. Perfect and imperfect at the same time, but they don't know how and why. And it's very ordinary that we deal with those sorts of discrepancies, but we also have, even with our GIS data, we would not necessarily have the floor area, unless a member of the assessor's office during the routine inspection was granted interior inspection access to verify existing conditions, or door number 2, the applicant provides us with stamped existing floor plan conditions, which is, we understand, antithetical in an instance when you're supposed to knock it down, rebuild it. But I'll say you look as you look like a gentleman with a comment, and I want to give you the opportunity.
No,
to
I
share.
just, we're stamp plans for a house that's being torn down.
No, right, but you understand that we're dealing with dimensional controls about interior space that are critical in sort of numerator denominator metrics. We need to do the math to understand, are you asking for a little, a lot, or nothing at all? And it's all about the difference between there, what you propose, run through the lens of the Plum Island over the Piod's dimensional controls specific to floor area ratio. So you can see, I mean, none of us here, revel in the idea that we have to do math after business hours, but we are nonetheless here, and when we do that, we have to be able to be credible and fair to both you as well as to.
So to the
So I'm not
extent,
looking to make you, I'm
no,
not.
I don't think it's, that,
Additional work, but this would be the law.
I understand, but if you have a basement, that is 7 feet or higher, regardless of whether, if it has heat down there, regardless of what it is, that's whole footprint of the house, that we're not counting the whole basement. That 350 or 60 square feet is not the whole basement. So.
Right, let me ask, give me a moment, because I'm gonna try to see if we can.
Sure.
We can start to navigate through this, make use of our time, yours included. What if the applicants, and let me ask, Mr. Crump, you're an architect, so, if the applicant's architect stamps plans with a representation to this board of the city with respect to the interior square footages, does that create any additional comfort? Does it cure any discrepancy-based discomfort? Does it move the needle either way? And because that's also available to us, request, but only if it gets us somewhere. Chair.
Chair, I know we haven't gone to deliberation, but, there are other sort of threshold legal issues. So I think we can get to deliberation. We can close question and answer. We can talk about that, and I'd like to move for continuous.
It's true and it's fair that we only just scratched the surface and found ourselves in the tall grass right here.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens. So we fight the battles as they find us. But in this instance, it is a question we have to deal with, or else we won't we won't get to any more of the substantive deliberations on the legal criteria. So
So the answer is.
if we were to entertain a continuance, forgive me, I mean to interrupt you. If we were to entertain a continuance, what are we asking the applicant?
Right, but am I allowed to do that now? And yeah, okay.
Still questions, though. Do we have to close questions?
Do we have, well, I'll tell you what.
Do we have any more questions?
We've taken sort of an inter-question pause. I will propose to, with your indulgence, take the discretion of the chair, and we'll try to align our movements with common sense a bit, just sort of back fluency. So we will close questions.
Okay.
But I think that if we are to entertain the notion of asking the applicant
To come back.
to come back, it's incumbent upon us to tell that applicant. So we.
Yeah, no, I want an answer.
And Mr. Crump, I'll hear from you in just a moment. I want to just sort of see this piece through. So,
We're
we're gonna close the question. Yes, we have one more question, and the next question.
Could you just, and I think you mentioned this in your presentation, but could you just recap the existing square or the existing footprint, size of the footprint versus the size of the footprint of the new building?
The overall dimensions, I don't have the overall dimensions in front of me, but the existing square footage that we have calculated is 880, which includes that front bump out, which I believe one of the members on the board said that it's 700 and something plus the bump out, when added up to 820, we have 808 on ours.
And then you
And
have.
then we had, on the second floor, we had 360 square feet, and on the basement, we have 350. Now, the point that I wanted to make is the basement is 7 feet minimum.
Yeah, I was just asking about the footprint.
So I understand, but
You've got 808 basically in the existing structure, 830 on yours, on the new one, is what it says on the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and So in the basement, if it's 7 feet or higher, it constitutes a living space, right? So if you took, and I'm only taking 350 out of that, which is half the basement, but if you took the whole basement, it's the same thing as us taking loft space upstairs. So in essence, if we took the whole basement, which I'm not, and added it to the first floor, we're already at the 1,500 square feet of what we're saying the existing structure is. So that's my point is, even if we do count half of the lot, if we count half the basement and the lot space to equal that extra 700 square feet or so plus square footage, it's the same thing as just counting, I'm not counting all the whole basement. If that makes sense. So we can do it however the board like, but in the end, I'm not even counting the full basement, which we could.
Is that clear in the plan to everyone's, to the board's satisfaction as a, I mean, Mr. Crump's a licensed architect. There's a seal and a stamp, you know, as
But he
a,
hasn't submitted floor plans yet, that's the point.
but my point is, I guess that's a great point, and I guess my follow-up would be, if that is the case, Mr. Crump, it's not in plans unless it's missing something. It's, I get why, but it's a silent metric that is the root cause of our finding ourselves in this impasse moment, because we don't have that critical piece of data, though it's understandable why anyone, professional and otherwise would know, you know, I mean, would try to avoid the unnecessary expense of floor plans for floors that are about to go away. But in this instance, because it's the Plum Island overlay district and greater that those dimensional controls, we are stripped of our ability to do the math because we're lacking the first integer.
Understood. I understand the concern, and I totally, if I were in your seat, I'd be doing the same thing. My point is, first floor area is the same as the basement. So if we double the floors to get up to the 1,500 without even looking at plans, it's an automatic, but however the board must proceed.
I look, and I understand that, and it aligns with common sense, but we don't have the luxury, and forgive me on behalf of us.
Yep.
When it comes to the rigor of this process, we have to have findings based on data and we'll call it evidence or submissions for us, because the record, you know, will outlive each of us. You know, when it comes to any scrutiny, we have to hold accountable to ourselves, each other, and every applicant, that there are these metrics that we should never guess at, even if they are very logical, very educated guesses. More often than ever not in the right, we still should never allow ourselves that, you know, that easy decision. So I guess I'll have to,
So
we're probably likely to ask for indulgence on a step back.
understood.
Let me just finish this real quick with our board members, and then we'll circle back to you. But
Sure.
just be, you know, respectfully your
Yeah,
time.
I don't want to go through just in courtesy for everybody else.
Of course, and thank you. So, any other questions before I'm going to close questions for the moment, and we're technically in open deliberations, but I think that the writing on the walls is that we do need something that that represents a reliable starting point as a floor area ratio. Is that fair? And what I am going to propose, I think we need, I'd like to get your feedback and follow up on it, is we need for just a rudimentary but stamped floor plan that gives us a starting basis, so that we have something to rely on in the plans. Is there, am I on or off?
It needs to have ceiling height too, because otherwise it doesn't count as.
So we need 3 axes of data on floor plans. Anything, is there any other thoughts to add to that?
On floor plans, there is a definition of floor area in the code, and you probably want Jennifer Blanchet to interpret it for us.
Yeah, just gonna.
All right, in terms of what we would ask of this applicant, it is floor plans in compliance with the dimensional requirements that are in our code.
Okay, but can I now, sort of deliberation, raise the other problem, which is this is the buyout,
Yes.
Plum Island overlay district. So on the mainland, you know, outside the buyout, we have our generic, you know, not substantially more detrimental standard or not building. That includes tearing down a building of splits, but not on Plum Island. So for example, we did a project, the last one we did last month, that was addition to an existing building. And we did another one on this very street. I remembered it from years ago, 2013. Same thing, we approved an addition. But in the PIAD, remember, that's a consent decree that we entered into with the state. So it was subject to litigation and then enforcement by the Commonwealth. It says, reconstruction shall mean the structural alteration of the existing building, but shall not include the demolition and rebuilding thereof. The only time you can clear the building and rebuild it, it's not conforming, is if there's a catastrophe. So it says a non-conforming single or two-family residential structure may be demolished or rebuilt after destroyed or damaged by a catastrophe. So that's what's missing here. That's why I asked the applicant, is he going to jack up the existing building and add to it? Because of the consent decree and our zoning, you can't voluntarily tear down your house, rebuild it.
Well, let me ask you this. I want to run this through the same lens.
Yeah.
Intersecting with PIOD and its dimensional requirements and that consent decree by the theme of performance.
Right.
So which, if any, do we give priority to? And is that within our discretion to do? Because this would not be a unique or novel application if granted that we would, that a structure would be removed and a new structure put in its place on pilings to improve the conditions by bringing a structure that's non-compliant with the FEMA performance standards into compliance above the floodplain, which is considered in line with the underlying sort of spirit and intent of that consent decree, as well as
Well, it is our
the
decision. I
standards.
think we need to, I mean, to speak for myself, I need to hear from the city solicitor on that, because that's not, when I left in 2013, that was.
Yeah. That's fair. Since then, I'll say it for misspeak or speaking with guidance, but I recall that we have, and correct me if anyone feels like I'm off base in this, but I seem to recall that we've entertained this, applied this standard, because we are also dealing with FEMA's performance standards.
Gotcha.
So the ability to add to an existing structure will very quickly fly in conflict with FEMA's performance standards and trip that wire to require it to come up on pilots anyway. And also that's the standard in the consent decree. I read that and I'm curious, I read it as a comma that separated those two clauses, where it spoke of it may be demolished or may be demolished as a result of catastrophe and I don't have the language.
I hear you, Rob, but there is.
We have this, did you hold this?
No, I don't. I know you have. I know you have. I'm not trying to be.
And it was just, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm asking the question out loud because, this raises a good question that we've never dealt with internally. Since,
But anyway, the point is, the reason why I moved for continuous is first, I gotta hear from him personally. I want to hear from the city solicitor on how we reconcile the FEMA thing. Because again, another purpose was the reason they wrote it that way in 2001 is they didn't want things to be perpetuated around. The idea is that by attrition, you get fewer houses. Now, again, the reality is that plenty of houses. I know, but I just think based on the language of the code, I realize our policy has changed. But I need a lawyer to tell me that you're okay.
Yeah.
That's issue one.
a lawyer that isn't just you or me.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who has a duty.
Which is why we have city solicitor.
Right, exactly. It's what they're there for. That's one. And then two, even if that weren't an issue, we gotta figure out the second thing. So we can't decide this. Then we can finally get to business expansion with it.
Agree with that. Sure. So I think, if we're to give this applicant sort of a parting to-do list, it should include, a fair notice that we will be looking for that advisory information from our city solicitor. So I do appreciate you raising it and challenging sort of our sentiment thinking, whether right, wrong, or indifferent about how this work should be done. But when we what I want to do is I want to make sure that we give the applicant the ability to know what they're expecting to come back with. It sounds like we'll have some homework as well. So with that, was there anything, sorry, anything further?
No, the question is just how much time we want to give ourselves and the applicant, you know, because again, he has to go and he has to do drawings for the existing floors. He has to send them to Jennifer Blanchet, the zoning enforcement officer. She has to then interpret it based on. And then we also need to have time parallel, totally different track with our city solicitor. Just to get a ruling on, you know, rules of engagement when you want to jack up the building to get it out of the.
I think some of that could be contemporaneous.
It can,
So,
it can. So what do you think?
I guess let's go around the horn.
Just a practical point here.
Yeah.
Our next two meetings are fully booked, so there's not gonna be time to deal with this until after the next two meetings.
I was just checking it from my end, it looks as if you're next talking about October 14th based on your usual.
That's what I'm trying to say. Get months should be enough time to ask the city solicitor.
It's gonna happen. I just one voting member.
That's what
I love the idea of pushing any applicant for any reason, you know, into sort of a long delay by any means.
Yeah.
Time and season are also relevant for.
We'll say 4 weeks. That's reasonable.
Okay, look, anything further? So let me just readdress this then to. So obviously you heard this all unfolded. I'm sure you're not thrilled, but hopefully you understand. We're trying to get you back. We do have to deal with, we have a comprehensive permit that's coming back. I'm sure everyone in this room, ourselves, and each other are familiar with Kmart. We are under very strict timelines on that as well. So I would want to get you back as absolutely quickly as possible. I know you don't need 4 weeks to get floor plans done, but it does need to run as quickly as possible through this plan shed. And we will, to the extent we need to answer and satisfy ourselves regarding other legal criteria on the FAR through our city solicitor. That's our job to get it done and have it done, but we don't have a slot in either meetings till.
So, that's a good question.
Sure.
All the new construction that you see in Plum Island, right, all of them have not been to a point that they're in disrepair or they're devastated. And they have been elevated on pilots with brand new construction, but now it seems like our project is in question.
Well, some of those projects are in Newbury. And in fairness,
There's plenty of Newburyport too.
I guess I don't have.
I understand, I'm just saying, if I go down North End Boulevard.
I don't dispute that. I'm sure you're right, and there certainly have been. I will say this, I'm sure speak to Liberty colleagues, this is not an individualized, sort of sentiment that's about this project. It's simply born of the circumstances of the project. And each member of the board participates in this process with respect to what rises to or falls short of their essentially in scrutiny. So as the chair, my job is to try to be as efficient as possible in administering our forward flow for that. Let's just take a quick look for hypothetical sake. If we just press forward, which you have the right to do, a member that is not able to be satisfied as to a sentiment is not more likely to just vote yes out of that in uncertainty, and that is not good for the process, not good for any outcome. So my proposal is to fend off a cautious no by any one member in the absence of information we can get in favor of a more certain, fair decision. More fairly able to be positive if it's the cards. So that's just my one voting member sharing that. I would share that with any applicant. So I empathize, but I don't think it does change what we're dealing with. So I can offer you the very first meeting. And do everything in the meeting to make sure that if there's questions we have that require legal input, we get it, we get it timely so that when you come back, provided you have the additional information on the plan, that we can do that map, go through the legal question, the of the FAR, and then get into the legal criteria, evaluating the standard. Substantially more detrimental. I'm sorry.
I'm hoping that we get the same fair opportunity as all the other brand new houses that are on Plum Island and Newbury.
I can tell you emphatically, there is no delta between continual fairness. I couldn't, as you probably have seen, and hopefully this is as authentic as it is in my heart and in my mind, I couldn't name by address any project, though I probably drive by them, as I'm sure you do and everyone else does.
Yep.
That in and of itself should be evidence of the anonymity and therefore the balance and fairness of this process. I have 2 properties, live in mainland, drive there all the time. I see all sorts of stuff. I don't break up the GIS to see if it's Newbury or Newburyport, but I know exactly where that line is.
I do too.
I'm sure I've seen what you described, but I will tell you emphatically, one thing I am certain of, without any evidence needed, we endeavor to, and I've never known that I've done this board for 23 years, which is shocking, of every other Tuesday night. I can tell you that I can't drive anywhere in the city and not see something that I've seen, that I've had a hand in, good and bad. So I will tell you that we will endeavor with every fiber in each of us to continue to dispense this process as fallible humans with something that we can control, which is balance and fairness.
Understood. And that's all I ask. I'm not projecting or accusing anything like that. I respect every person on this board.
I respect your question. I don't hold any of that. I don't hold it in any of that. So, so with that, I will entertain a motion at your request, provided we're on the same page, to continue, and then we'll get this matter moved on. And I thank you for your patience and your indulgence. So I understand it as well. It's certainly an understanding. Do we have a motion to continue?
So I'll move to October 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Eigenman. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mr. Swan. The motion made and seconded on the application. Motion to continue to October 14th. Call the roll, Mr. Swan.
Yes.
Mr. Black.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All that's 5 in the affirmative. The ayes have it. Motion carries. See you back. Thank you. Okay.
I never repeat myself.
From 14 to 17. Okay. So Mr. Ginta, you just stepped out for a minute. Okay. Okay. So we need Mr. Ginta. That so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a momentary pause so that we have an alternate member that's going to step up as our fifth voting member who just stepped out for a moment. So we're going to give it a hot 5, as they say, 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as he's come back in the room, we'll pick things up. And thank you for your indulgence. It doesn't often go that slow for any of you that might be here for the first time. You don't need to run for the hills. Usually things move swiftly, but sometimes they need more. Men of moment. All right, we're gonna get started in just a moment.
Let's take.
The applicant seeks all necessary permits, permissions, and approvals for a special permit for nonconformities to construct a two-story addition greater than 500 square feet at the rear of a single-family structure on a non-conforming lot. And again, the five voting members for this application are myself, Mr. Swanton, Mr. Shannon, Mr. Ginta, and Mr. Attorney DeShane.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Douglas DeShane from Finner and Nicholson representing the applicant. My client is the Matthews Nominee Trust, John Matthews trustee. Mr. Matthews is here with us this evening. Our engineer, Everett Chandler, and our architect, Sarah Oliver, are not here today. However, Ms. Oliver's absence is a result of her having a new child. And so Mr. Matthews will present the architectural plans. If I could go to the next slide, please. Ann. All right, project summary, guys. The client would like to add, my clients would like to add a two-story addition to their home, including a garage space on the lower level and some additional living space. The existing structure is a two-story, single-family home located at 14 Maple. In the residential 2 zoning district. The existing home is non-conforming pre-existing as to the front setback. It's currently set back 8 feet, where 25 feet is required. And the side setback to the right is currently at 6.9 feet, where 10 feet is required. So the structure itself is non-conforming pre-existing with, in respect to those 2 measurements. However, the rest of the structure does meet all other dimensional requirements. The proposed addition will not create any new nonconformities, but it is proposed to maintain and extend the pre-existing non-conforming side setback of 6.9 feet. Proposed addition will match the height of the existing structure at 23.5 feet, so we're not going any higher, we're not changing the roof structure in any way. And we will be impacting less than 25% of the outer walls of the existing structures, and therefore we're not subject to the demolition delay regulations. Andy, we go to the next one. Oh, thank you. Existing conditions, as I said, we're in an R2 zone. The existing lot is also pre-existing non-conforming. The lot has only 48 feet of frontage where 90 feet is required. However, the lot is conforming as to lot area. As you can see, well over 14,000 square feet, whereas 10 is only required. So this is a relatively large lot for that zone and that location in Newburyport. And as I said earlier, the existing home is non-conforming pre-existing non-conforming as to those 2 setbacks we've just discussed. Next slide, please. The zoning impacts with proposed impacts of the proposed changes. One, the side setback, as I discussed, 6.9 feet will be extended horizontally, meaning we're extending a wall a few feet along that same dimension. And then there's a deck that also is along that same 6.9 feet. So we're not making any smaller, but we are making a horizontal extension. We are going to add approximately 1,203 feet of living area. On the first floor, we're going to be adding 583 square feet to the footprint, as you'll see in the plans in just a minute. However, vast majority of that 583 square feet is garage area, 2-car parking, very little living space. However, the second floor addition, which is about 620 square feet, is exclusively living space. So we currently have we currently have 1,547 square feet of living space. We're proposing to add 1,203 for a total of 2,750. This addition will not create any new conformities, and with the exception of the extension of the one non-conformance, we meet all other dimensional regulations, including lot coverage, open space, and height. We are not proposing any changes to the pre-existing non-conforming lot frontage itself. It's not being touched in any way. So here is a a picture of the lot. As you can see, we've got 48 feet of frontage on Maple. And then the lot is a long, deep lot. You can see that the rear of our lot is actually fairly clear. There are no big trees or any other vegetation existing there that would need to be removed to add this addition. And if we could go to the next slide, here's the assessors map. Again, you can see 14 Maple. I would like to point out two things on this plan. One is that my client also controls the properties at 10 and 12 Maple Street. So essentially, the two lots to the right of our lot are owned and controlled by my client. The non-conforming setback is actually setbacks from his other property. So he's abutting his own property. The extension of the non-conformity is really a detriment to his own other property, and therefore he has no issues with it. The other thing I'd like to point out here on this plan before I turn things over to Mr. Matthews is that if you will look along Forester Street, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 properties that sit perpendicular to our property. I just want to make note that the fourth property in, which is 29 Forester Street, we did receive, the board did receive a letter from our neighbor at 29 Forester. So I just wanted to give you perspective of where she is. And when I wrap things up after Mr. Matthews speaks, I'll address her letter and hopefully provide some comfort in the fact that we are not going to be removing any vegetation behind her. And quite frankly, our addition is significant distance away from her property. So we don't believe that this would have any detrimental effect on her, but we can talk about that in a bit. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Mr. Matthews, who will run through the architectural, the proposed building with you, and then I'll be back to answer any questions you have.
John Matthews, address is 252 High Road in Newbury. I'm here on behalf of the Matthews Nominating Trust, which owns the properties at 10, 12, and 14 Maple Street, as the Shane said. This is a house that my grandfather, John A. Matthews, purchased in the 1950s, and it has been a rental property all that time, maybe only 5 or 6 tenants in all of those years. This is a project we're undertaking for my daughter Carolyn and her family, so that they can move to Newburyport where they'd like to be, and so this property will remain in the family for the foreseeable future. In terms of architecture, I've worked with Sarah Oliver on the project and on the layout. She's a work associate of mine, and the desire is to have a 2-car garage with some storage on the first floor, a small extension of the living area, and then on the second floor, a bedroom suite with a bathroom and a sitting area. That's all achieved on the front third of the property. The property is over 225 feet deep, and it's the first 70 feet or so where all of the development occurs. If you know the condominiums at the former firehouse next door, that property line is well beyond where this development disturbance occurs. We can go to the building elevations, please. So the existing architecture is respected. We're not adding any dormers to the existing house. The roof line height and angles are maintained in the addition to the property. Windows will be the same fenestration as you currently have in the existing building. Collaborative finishes. And it's respectful both to the existing architecture and to the neighborhood that surrounds. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Attorney DeShanes.
Sure, if we could just go back to the map, the assessors map, the one after that. Yeah, again, just to reiterate what John said, you can see and hear the existing structure is up close in the front of the property. We are going to be adding to the back of the property, so that the back of the structure, so that, as he said, all of the work will be in the front half right there. So with respect to our abutting, the three neighbors along Forester, as you can see, there's nothing planned behind them. You can see that the area is pretty clear now. So we're not proposing to cut any trees or put any structures whatsoever back behind our neighbor at 29 Forester. She did have some concerns about other neighbors cutting trees and the impact that that's had on her. But again, that is not anything to do with my client. And in fact, we are not going to touch that vegetation to the back of our lot in any event. If I could just skip down then after the plans, Andy, I just have one more slide. And that is that, as you know, the standard of review for a special permit in this case is that we will not be significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood. I will tell you that what triggers our need here for a special permit is the fact that we are proposing more than a 500 square foot addition. And of course, we are adding on to a pre-existing non-conforming structure. However, the home will meet all of the height, open space, and lot coverage regulations. And in fact, I suspect we're well over on the well under the lot coverage. And again, not changing the height makes a big difference here. The proposed home will not impair the integrity of the character of the district or adjoining districts, as it's been designed, as John's mentioned, to be consistent with not only the architecture of the existing home, which he's identical to, but also some of the surrounding neighborhoods. They've kept neighbors, they've kept the historical architecture character. They're going to recreate the same windows, same siding, roofing, so it really should blend in well. The proposed structure is certainly in keeping with many of the surrounding buildings, especially those recently redeveloped or improved upon. The size, even with, what is a substantial addition, is still well within the scale, size, and massing of the neighborhood. And I'm sorry, I have a typo here. I don't know where Mosley Ave came from, but I apologize. The construction, as you know, will be done in conformance with state and local building codes. It will not adversely impact the environment or the neighborhood in any way. Moreover, it's proposed to construct with top quality energy efficient materials, again, minimizing environmental and neighborhood impacts. Aesthetically, the proposed new home, once it's completed, the addition is done, will arguably constitutes an improvement to the property and will therefore increase the value of this property, as well as benefiting the surrounding properties and increasing their values as well. And also, as part of this job, of this proposal, my clients are looking for the home to be utilized by family members. And so they want it to be sustainable, energy efficient, and obviously attractive. So none of the proposed changes will be detrimental to the health or welfare of the neighborhood. We're not changing water or sewer connections. We're not, certainly not within any protected zones or wetland or other resource areas. And as we know, the maintenance and improvement of our city's existing housing stock is beneficial to the health and welfare of the neighborhood, including, the increase in tax revenue for the city. So this is an improvement to this property at no cost to our neighbors. It's not going to negatively impact them at all. To the neighbors to the properties that aren't owned by my client, we more than exceed all required setbacks. And so this addition will not be imposing on any of our neighbors. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, certainly will not have any impact on our abutter at 29 Forester. So with that, gentlemen, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you, Attorney DeShane. We will close the presentation portion of the public hearing and go to public comment. Again, anyone who wishes to speak, we'll just ask you to kindly raise your hand. We'll recognize you and we will invite you to take podium to give us your thoughts. Anyone? Yes.
Hi, I'm Joanna Rossi, I'm the 29 Forester. My only concern was it's a long, narrow lot. And although it looked clear for some reason in the picture, it is fairly wooded, although they're smaller trees. My concern was only privacy and that something would be done to the back of the yard. The other butter, had cut down a large number of trees maybe 8 years ago, and there has been more, not flooding, but it's definitely been issues with water. So those are my main concerns. They have been addressed, as long as that will remain essentially the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in connection with this application? Seeing no further hands in the room, we will move on and see if we have. What's that? Yeah, I don't see any hands either online, so still no hands in the room, none online. I will go ahead and close public comment and go to questions from the board. Who may, does anyone have any questions and wish to lead off? Mr. Ginton.
So just a few clarifying things. When you showed the lots and you said the owner owned the lots next to it, was it the small one and then the long one next to it?
Correct.
So everything on that right side basically is there.
Yep, that's Andy's.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to be clear on that. And then you're proposing a 1,200 square foot addition where almost 600 of it is a garage. And then there's living quarters above.
Yes, if you look at that plan, you can see the blue, that's the proposed addition. And the only part that's gonna be storage, qualifies as living space under the regulations, is the small triangle right there that abuts the house. The rest of that is the garage.
Yep.
Correct, John? Yeah. And then, of course, if you go to the next slide, you can see that the second floor, that is living space that we connected through from the existing second.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Any further questions from the board?
Could you put up the site plan there? You mentioned the owner owns 3 properties. What next to it? The site plan here.
Up top, I think the third or fourth slide is that one with the set. I don't do the same, but keep going. Oh, I thought you might want to show that, the one with the trees.
Ken, was that in the presentation?
There's a separate drawing.
Yeah, it's a separate drawing. It's not in your presentation, right, Doug?
That's the problem.
I think that's the problem, it's not in the presentation.
Right. It's like the 5th or 6th one down.
I'm sorry. There we go.
Here. This probably would have been good to have.
Actually,
I just want to try to understand this. Number 14 is the proposal. Number 12, it looks like a long building. The back piece of the building is actually part of 14. Where's that thing up there? Who's that?
Have in the history from the family. The middle building is currently my niece Ashley's. Right away, the yoga studio, it's the former Matthews Market. Grocery store, it was my grandfather's. And the reason he bought 14 Maple initially was in order to expand the market, which he did in the early 60s. And the variance was granted by the ZBA. It encroaches on the lot. Everything's in single ownership. You see there. We'll address the property line issues in the future as the family. And the state deals with the future of number 10 and number 12. That's it.
So, typically, when we look at a zoning matrix, try to understand, things like coverage. We don't have half of a grocery store on the back of the lot. So it's, when you did your calculations for like, I guess you're so far below on coverage, 10.5%. Does that include the half the grocery, former grocery store back there? But I mean, I'm just making sure I understand what I'm looking at.
I understand the question. That back addition is less than 1,000 square feet. That's encroaching.
That big square up there?
That's right.
I see.
The whole market is only about 2,200 square feet.
I guess your coverage, it's such a big lot, it's irrelevant anyway, it's not in there, it doesn't matter, so
Yes. Thanks.
I'd like to stop with this line of questioning, I just have never seen a proposal like this. Approaching building. The other thing is, could you just say a word about the materials, like you say that you're gonna replace all the windows in the house?
No, the new windows in the addition are gonna be modeled after the existing,
The 2 over 2 panes.
the 2 over 2 historic.
The windows in the house are staying,
Yes,
Well, the windows in the existing house will be replaced, but they'll be the same
I
design.
thought the plan's not being replaced, that's why.
Pardon me?
I think the plan I'm looking at says the windows are to be replaced,
Yes, with the light windows.
all existing windows to be replaced.
That's right.
Key by key.
That's all right.
So, and there'll be these 2 over 2s that match.
That's right.
The siding, I did not find notation there, but is the siding on the addition going to be similar to the siding?
Yes. Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Swanton. Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Any other questions? I don't have any that have already been addressed. So, I will close questions and go to deliberations. Again, we're deliberating the criteria for a special permit non-conformities. So we just need to address the legal findings on the special permit for non-conformities. Who wishes to start us off? Mr.
I'm right. So,
Ginther?
our deliberations here, so, two-prong approach, right? So we're not, creating any new non-conformities, as it was shown to us. So, and, the question is whether it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So I believe that it achieves both prongs in my, I would support this.
Thank you. Further deliberation?
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of why we have to do individualized determinations, because the context is everything. So I mean, if you just said, oh, you know, if the applicant just came in and said, we're putting this addition of 2,000 square feet on the back of this house, we didn't know where it was or what was next door to them, it might be a problem. But in this context, because of the actual physical arrangement of the neighborhood, it's not substantially more detrimental. And I'll just a couple of reasons that I'm relying on. One is, it is a very large lot. You know, we spend a lot of time wrestling with tiny lots in the south end. This one's actually larger than this thing. Two, streetscape, which is how the public is going to experience it, already has very large buildings. You know, there's the condominium at 37 next door. And then there's 37.5, which is a former school across the street. And of course, this has been a commercial area as long as anyone can remember, because there used to be a grocery store there. So that's relevant. That makes it easier. Also, the only real effect butter is for that condo to the west at 37. And that's where their parking lot is. So they actually, if you look at the satellite picture, they have cars whose noses are parked right on the line up against this lot line. So, taking into account, well, how are they gonna experience this? Is this gonna be substantially detrimental? No, it's not. It isn't. And then absolutely, I take to heart the testimony of the abutter at 29, but as others have said, because the lot is so deep and the area of work is all at the front of the lot, I personally don't have any concerns that there's gonna be any disturbance way back there. The northerly. So for all those reasons, I'm very comfortable that this is not substantially.
And I concur with my colleagues, they said it well, I can only add that, sometimes now, always. In Newbury.
Very good. Any further deliberations? I was concerned when I first saw the drawings and by the addition is quite large. It was, when we take into account massing and scale, it'll be a good sized building. However, it's next to a condo association with a parking lot behind it. I was half expecting that their board would be here objecting to it. They're not here objecting to it. So with that said, I have to agree with my colleagues. I don't find it to be more detrimental to the neighborhood. Good, and I will support it.
Yeah, I heard from all of these very, cases, it's rare, extremely large lot. I believe context is everything, as Mr. Ivan said, so I support it as well.
Any further deliberations before we close? Closing deliberations. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for non-conformity for 14 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Swanton, seconded by Mr. Gibbs. Calling the roll on the special permit for non-conformities. Mr. Swanton?
Yes.
Mr. Chip? Yes. Mr. Gibbs? Yes. Mr. Ivan?
Yes.
I vote yes, it's five. No, five in the affirmative, the ayes have it, motion carries. Good luck to you, and thank you, very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much. See that other way. Calling the next application before us this evening, this is the application of 21 Erie Avenue, CBC LLC, care of Scott Brown Architect, for the address of 21 Erie Avenue. This is a special permit for non-conformities. The applicant seeks all necessary permits, permission, and to demolish an existing one-story structure, replace it with a new two-story structure. And with that, may we hear from the applicant, I believe, Mr. Scott Brown, and good evening.
Mr. Brown here is Shannon Haas, who represents the owner. My name is Brian Cafferty of the Continental Law Group. We're seeking a special permit for nonconformities under 9B2A and 9B3C of the zoning ordinance. We ask that the ZBA grant this special permit because this proposal will not create any new nonconformities. In fact, it improves the front yard setback by approximately 4 feet. It also is not substantially more detrimental than the existing structure when you consider the factors of size, scale, massing, and volume. The proposed home is consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. And it's as evidenced by the email that we received, or that the board received from the abutters, Carrie Lambert and Mary Parisi at 9 Erie, who explicitly said in their email that the change will fit the character of the neighborhood. I'd also like to point out that this is we think the most reasonable alternative, given the structurally deficient and really charmless house that's on the property right now. The original goal was to add on to and build up on the existing structure, but through the process, we learned that it was structurally deficient and reimagined it as, I think, a far better project, and one that is far more consistent with the neighborhood, and I think is marks a significant investment into the neighborhood. At this point, I'll turn it over to Scott Shannon to discuss the design details.
Great, thank you, Attorney Cassidy. So we're planning on a new approximately 2,300 square foot single family residence and proposing to demolish the existing 1,500 square foot residence, which you see on the screen here. So we were before the Historic Commission on August 14th. This existing structure is over 75 years old. As listed as being built in 1900, although there's some questions relative to that. This does have kind of a cinder block foundation. So a vote to deem the structure historically significant failed, thus clearing the path for full demolition. So it is a sprawling ranch, with virtually no redeeming qualities. And it is really the byproduct of a lot of Yankee ingenuity over the years. So, these are some photos of what some of that Yankee ingenuity at the top there. That's the back of the existing residence. If we can go to the previous slide, some photos of the existing house. Landscape does a lot towards really screening this structure. Next slide, please. Again, more photos. Next slide, please. So these are proposed in existing site plans as provided by Millennium Engineering. The existing site plan is on the left side. Proposed site plan is on the right side. So this is an undersized, non-conforming lot. Is non-conforming for both lot area and frontage. Lot area is 6,873 square feet, where 10,000 is required. And the frontage is 75 square feet, 75 feet where 90 is required. The existing house is non-conforming, for front yard setback, as Attorney Cassidy already stated. That front yard setback is at 16.7 feet, where 25 feet is required. And the existing lot coverage is currently at 23.8%, which also includes the shed in the southeast corner, which we are proposing to remove. Proposed lot coverage for the new structure is 24.4%, which is a slight increase. This includes a detached one-car garage that we're proposing at the northeast corner and a front porch, which is an open, architectural feature. If we were to exclude that sort of oversized or even decrease that sort of open front porch from the calculations, our lot coverage would actually be about 23.1%, which is, a decrease from the existing lot coverage. So the proposed front setback for the new structure as measured to the building wall is 20.4 feet, which is an improvement to the existing nonconformity of 16.7. And this also brings the building wall of this structure more or less in line with the abutting property plan north at 19 Erie. And it's always nice when you can, along a streetscape, kind of align. So we are improving left side setback. We're proposing that setback to be 28.4 feet, whereas the existing setback is 13.7 feet. And this is on the driveway side of the property. On the opposite side of the property, the right side setback, we are getting closer to the lot line, but we are still conforming with the setback, 10.4 feet. And with regard to the rear setback, there's virtually no change between the existing and proposed conditions. As I stated, we are proposing a single car garage / accessory structure in the northeast corner. And this meets sort of all the dimensional requirements for accessory structures, including size, height, and setback to the side lot line. Next slide, please. So this is our proposed rendering, taking from the left, front left corner.
You can see that sort of proposed accessory structure garage off to the left there. And, what we've done with this project is we've taken the approach of trying to sort of present a design that is really compatible with the neighborhood. This is an area of town that is going through a lot of change. And there's still sort of a lot of ranch style houses and Cape style homes. So really what we're trying to do here is sort of make this compatible with this existing houses. And this is what I would qualify as sort of an expanded Cape, where part of the second floor is under the roof. And I really think this is going to be a great fit. Next slide, please. So our proposed elevations, bottom right, that's our front elevation of the house. And off to the right there, you'll see our roof height calculation as measured to the median median roof of the shed dormer. And we are at a modest 22 feet 6 inches, where in this district, 35 feet is allowed. In the top left corner, that is our right side elevation. Off to the left there, you can see our front, open porch, which I spoke about previously. You will see 2 windows there that are shown sort of dotted in below grade. The intention is to sort of maximize our square footage below grade. And so what that is sort of like a window well to a finished space. And off to the right there on that top elevation at the back, you'll see some balusters and rule posts. And what we're indicating there is a, kind of an open stairway to the basement that you'll see in the next slide. So next slide, please. So a rear elevation in the bottom right, and you can see in the lower left-hand corner, that's the basement stair that I just referred to. Way off to the right, we have a cantilevered rooflet that's over a side entry door, and up in the, which you can see in sort of the upper drawing, the upper left-hand corner. We've got a side entry door with a rooflet above, and off to the right of that, that's the front entry porch that is set back, from this space. So in terms of materials, we are planning on clad, wood, Anderson, windows and doors. As for siding, we are planning on using an LP Smart siding, which is an engineered wood product. And they offer both shakes and lap siding. And in this presentation, we're actually showing sort of 2 different types of siding for the house. You'll note in our rendering, we're showing lap siding. And in these drawings, we're showing shingles. LP offers both, and we think both would be a great choice, for this project. And as for trim, LP offers the same kind of rot-resistant products with trim, so that may be a product that we're also going to be using for the trim. Next slide, please. So our 4 elevations of our garage, like I said, this sort of meets all sort of the dimensional requirements as it pertains to accessory structures here in Newburyport, including the 15-foot, height limit to our median roof height. We've taken a little bit of a different approach with this. It's a little bit a different design from the house. We're changing the type of siding. We're also changing the roof shape. And I think our rendering sort of demonstrates that actually doing this, this particular project is successful. Next slide, please. So just a couple slides showing the neighborhood context. And, these are mostly sort of post-war ranch style homes and capes. And like I said previously, there was really starting the neighborhood and, all of these streets are starting to sort of undergo some major changes. So at the top here in the center, that's 24 Erie. This is a new construction home, which is directly across the street from our property. This is a Cape style house built in 2016, not dissimilar to some of the things that we are doing. They had the good fortune of having a lot of frontage there, so it's a house that sort of really stretches the lot, and it's really one of the few houses in the neighborhood that has a 2-car garage, fronting the street. This is actually one of the larger houses in the neighborhood. And below that is 20 Erie, which I think is one of the smaller homes in the neighborhood. And I think this is sort of an active application, before this board. So eventually, hopefully, there'll be a new house there as well. Next slide, please. So the house at the top in the middle, that's 25 Erie. This is the immediate butter to the right. It's quite a distance away from our property, about 75 feet. And I think this is one of the older homes in the neighborhood, built in the 1920s. And in the lower left-hand corner, this is 19 Erie, which is the immediate butter to our left. It's a two-story home built in the 1980s. And the immediately to the right of that, which is 17 Erie, which I think is actually 15 Erie. I don't think there is a 17 Erie on the street. And this is a house that has undergone significant renovations, including a rather large addition, or a garage, off to the right side. So next slide, please. And with that, I'll close it out and I'll hand it back to Attorney Cafferty. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Attorney Carey.
Yeah, I just, again, wanted to reiterate that, this is, will not create any additional conformities and will not be substantially more detrimental than what's there. We think it's actually a significant improvement for what's there. I think as shown by the last few slides, that it's consistent with the size, the scale, the massing, and the volume of all the existing homes in the immediate vicinity. Again, we think it fits perfectly with the neighborhood and is a significant investment and a significant improvement.
Thank you, sir. We will close presentation and go to public comment. Anyone in the room wish to speak in connection? Yes, please.
We actually submitted a letter. We're at 19 Erie. That attractive house you saw on the bottom left corner.
Is that your?
My name is Mary Crease and my husband and I submitted a letter. Comment first is that we've had really positive interactions with Shannon. We've asked to meet with her. We met with her just kind of driveway to driveway once and asked some questions. And then we asked if we could meet again and she came over noon one day so my husband can join us and answered a lot of our questions, which are in the letter that we sent. The property line's very tight on the left-hand side. So we were just concerned about the vegetation there and the trees and how that was all gonna work out. And then the garage in the back. So she answered all of our questions. We feel really good about how our street was described. It is post-World War II GI Bill ranches and caves. And it's gone through some changes and some of the houses are way too big for the street. And we're very concerned about the one at 20 because that has potential to be not fit in our street. So it was a real pleasure to speak with Shannon and to know that her goal was to build something that fits our street. So those are my comments. Two questions. One is, will we be informed before the demolition takes place? And we wanted to also just mention the potential for two projects happening at the same time on a street that is small, no sidewalks, and is a pass-through for people coming down, crossing through and getting to the rotary to get to 8th Street. So it's a busy street even though it's, so we're just worried about construction possibly happening at 20 and 19 and how that.
Very good. We'll be happy to try to address the questions of those two of them, and you'll hear us listen some detailed responses to those questions as we go through the process. But anything else you wanted to? We do have your letter as well.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Very good. Anyone else wish to speak in connection with the application? Seeing no further hands in the room, we just take a quick time. And I see one hand online. We see Jean Land.
Jean Landergan, yeah? Yes, hi.
Well, thank you. It sounds like you've unmuted your mic. That's great. Please, you have the floor.
Hi, my husband and I are Tom Landergan. We live at 30 Erie Ave. We've been on Erie Ave for over 30 years, and we're just very concerned about, obviously we're not in a butter to the property, but we're concerned about the height of the houses going in. I know on the corner of Erie and Ferry, there was a house that went up. It's across from the Heinz's, and that went up 3 stories high with the Widow's Peak. And I just looked quickly at the plans. We're in a car. We parked in Seabrook, but you know, these houses are going in. They're much too big for the neighborhood. We know that property. We know the previous owners. My son used to go in there to feed the cats, and we were friendly with them. And I know it's a very small property, so we're concerned about that. The traffic on the street. I know I've called the traffic advisory, and they did put a speed sign up because the people do cut through a lot. The other thing that we're very concerned about is there's a lot of woods behind that house, specifically the Gilmet house. And with all the trees that are back there, there's going to be a lot of uprooting of skunks and mice, and there's coyotes and foxes that we have seen. We have a dog. I know Carrie and Mary next door have a dog, and there are little children next door to us, an infant and a toddler. So we're concerned about coyotes and things, and if the developers are going to put any mouse traps out or skunk to because when they did build Boyd Road, Evergreen Golf Course got developed, we're on Erie Ave, and we had mice in our car, and we had foxes and things like and coyotes. So that's the one concern, because there's a lot of trees. The house is, you know, in bad shape. I know it needs to come down, but that's some concerns we have. So that's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Yes. Something else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions in the room? Sorry, public comment in the room? I don't see any further hands online. Allow me then to, we will close public comment and go to questions from the board. And I think if I might be indulged by my colleagues, I'll launch the first question. Councilor, with respect, or any of the members from the application team, we had heard 2 questions, one with respect, actually, we've heard 3 questions. One with respect to steps that may be taken to address the traffic or other impacts on the street. And I believe, what was the other question that we got? Our first. Oh, will they be informed? Yes, Steve, thank you very much, Mr. Swan. If you could just discuss how the abutters might be able to be alerted to the commencement in advance of demolition. And then, of course, if you wish to address the comments from the Lanigans that we just heard about, any other mediatory efforts with respect to pre-demolition, rodent and pest control or mitigation. Anything that you wish to speak to in addressing those would be welcome.
Great, yep. So I can start with Mary's request about demo. I don't believe there's any public notice of demo. I'm happy to send you an email, shoot you a text. I did actually go and do an introduction letter to all the neighbors, so they all have my contact info. My name is Shannon Haas. I'm the builder and owner of 21 Erie Ave.
Perfect. I know that you were introduced at the outset, but I just want to make sure that Ms. Gretchen Joy is at the top of that. She's involved. Thank you.
Yep. And I do live in York, Maine. I'm a half-hour away, but I have an office in Amesbury. We're local builders, local to the community. And I'm happy to come down with any neighbor concerns to deal with it. I will definitely give Mary a notice. I have contacted the gentleman across the street and met with him. I have his contact information. I forget his name, but I know his dog's name is Leroy. And also a lady up the street, same thing. We've been in phone contact. She was actually my neighbor growing up in Newburyport. So I'm trying to get a good rapport and let people know they can call me with any issues, large or small. So I'll definitely notify about that. As far as traffic goes, with all my construction projects, I do for hire work, also do, this is my third kind of renovation that I've owned. And one of them was on Salisbury Beach. You don't get a tighter site than oceanfront on Salisbury Beach. I've done kind of commercial projects in Winchester, Mass, all very tight locations. So before any job, I do appropriate site fencing, temporary chain link fences as needed. We have a plan, since the driveway is moving back, we can kind of fit more cars in there. The house is moving back. We're not gonna do the front lawn till later. So we have, our dumpster placement, additional parking on both the front and the side of the house to try to keep people off the street. As it is right now, there's a small kind of stack retaining wall. So even if, I drive a truck and that almost blocks the street, just pulling up in front of the house, and there's only one spot in the driveway. So we do plan during construction, to open up a lot more spots, as well as myself and some of the more regular people who don't need to park right at the house. We park kind of further off in more open areas and let the larger workmen who need to get in do that. We also maintain very good site organization as far as lumber deliveries, everything like that. We try to keep it clean, organized, and out of everyone's way as much as possible. Regarding the rodents, as the lady who called in said, the former owner did have cats. We have had the pest exterminators there just to check, kind of going through our pre-demo checklist, and there are no mice, no rodents, no evidence of every kind. Her cats did an excellent job at that. The wood she speaks of, about 52 Ferry Road. So those are not our woods, unfortunately. There's a fence back there, and our lot line starts about 5 feet before the fence. We'll construct a temporary fence and eventually a permanent fence. I know 52 Ferry did make a comment as well about in the past when people had dumped trash back there, made a mess back there. Great piece of knowledge to have. I wasn't aware of that history. Everything. I mean, we've already done hazardous material testing there. To my surprise, there was nothing found. But if there had been, we would dispose of it properly for state regulations. And everything in my personal and professional life is disposed of properly. I would never dump anything on any else's land. And I do not believe we will disturb any of the trees in the back. They're not on our property line, and we'll keep within our own lot. The only kind of light foliage that we will take down is between myself and Mary's lot to put a fence line there. And it kind of defines the lots more and also gives each lot some privacy. We're also not going to put any windows on the left side of the garage, just to make sure there's privacy, even though it's not any residential, just so you don't have a window facing your yard. We are trying to listen to the neighbors. I've watched a few zoning meetings. I've talked to people who live in the neighborhood and just who live in the town to try to get a real sense of what the neighborhood wants and doesn't want, and build a home accordingly. And as my attorney said, we would love to not have to demo this house completely. However, it has not been constructed to any building code known to man. The foundation is not even proper. Unfortunately, I don't love the idea of ripping out a foundation, paying to dispose it, extra waste, extra money, and then putting a new one back in the ground. That is not my business model. I go to great lengths to save historic buildings of any value. And I just don't see a path forward with that here.
Good, thank you for addressing those questions. We may have more. Thank you. So we're in questions, further questions.
Another question that I think came from the caller, local caller, was, I think, architect Scott Brown, you may have touched on this, but they asked about the building height. You have a slide on it. Could you not only indicate what the height is, but how it compares to the neighborhood? Can you speak to that a little more?
We don't actually have data on heights.
I realize, okay.
Yeah, so it's measured to 22 feet 6 inches, and that's the median height of the dormer. There. There is one house across the street, which is a Cape, a newer home built in 2016. And which this is comparable to in terms of height. And I think you could also say that the immediate house to the left of us is very close to the height. you know, to what we're showing here. In fact, the house to the left of us, is really a full 2 stories.
Yeah.
Full what?
2 stories.
Yeah, this will be, it's hard to eyeball the height of the house to the left, but it'll be 6 to 8 feet lower than that, the top.
So I think those don't know which sheet those on, you know, neighborhood context photos, maybe it's the first sheet that actually shows, so here. The property immediately across the street, which is the top photo in the middle. That's comparable in height to what we're proposing. And then the next slide. Immediate property to the left, which is the one in the lower left. That actually might be a little higher. Because that's a full 2 stories. It's got almost no true. So I think if we were to measure that, that would exceed the 22.
Okay, my next question is on my own, which is, as has been mentioned, Erie Avenue is one that we've spent some time on, understanding its transition from smaller post-war houses. I did some calculations, to try to figure out how many square feet this house is, but could you just eliminate me, but what are we building here as far as
2,300 square feet, 2,300 square feet.
2,300?
First and second floor, not including and basement.
Right.
And in terms of the immediate neighborhood, the two there are 2 houses that are actually larger than this. One of them is that newer Cape across the street. And the other one is 17 Erie, which is actually 15, right? One of the 2, 15 or 17 Erie. The one with the 2-car garage addition to the front side.
Yep.
So those are the 2 houses in the neighborhood that are actually larger than.
And a lot of what we struggle with is the size of the house relative to its lot. Some lots are very tiny, some are a little bigger. This one, am I right, is this 6,873 square feet? About that or so, is that?
That's about, that sounds about right, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. That's all my questions.
Any further questions? I don't have any further questions either, so with that, I'll close questions from the board, we'll go into deliberations, again, we're deliberating the legal criteria for the application, which is a special permit for non-conformance. Yes, Mr. Slow.
I'll be happy to start. It is a 2-pronged test. First, are there any new non-conformities? New non-conformity. When we look at conformity, actually, you made an improvement on the setbacks, which is appreciated. I think the real challenge, when we look at a lot of these is, you're dealing with a street of smaller houses. How sensitive have you been in trying to come up with a house that doesn't overwhelm the size of its lot? And I think with this particular picture you have up here, I think it does a good job showing some of the things that have been done here to make the house not look overwhelmingly large. We're not trying to say you can't put a second story in there. But you've done it in such a way that it's very, doesn't overwhelm the small house in the street. I think that's very important, fitting in with the neighborhood, not being substantially more non-conforming. So anyway, because you have been sensitive to this issue, to the massing, creating this design, just the way that the dormer's done, it's set on off the sides, it's much of it set in off the front. It's not overly high, you try to work hard to keep your height down. You do have some mass figures off the back, and you can even see it from most angles in the street. And all these things are appreciated in the street, so I can support this.
Thank you very much.
Plus, I forgot one thing. Plus, the only neighborhood we're from is yes. And that's also not always the case. When we see people. And particularly on this street.
Yeah.
Any other deliberations? Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with what Mr. Swanton is saying. I mean, I think volume and the massing, you guys seem to have thought this through and captured sort of the street and the sort of greater neighborhood of the other. As well. So that's you. So I also support.
I'll just make a couple comments. I think it's a beautiful rendition. I like the fact that the garage is not attached to the house. The reason I bring that up is we have that issue on the same street coming up. Where garage attached, at the middle of the top, bothered most of the board for the size of the mass. This seems to have found that solution for, this is actually a bigger house. And it's a bigger. So I think this solution actually is probably what we were looking for months ago. The other applicant. But with that said, play one off the other. I just think this is the correct representation of what can be done on that street for a larger 2,000 square foot house or bigger, and not look massive and fit in. That's it. Any further deliberations?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I mean, we spent an enormous amount of time on 20 Erie. So I especially want to echo what Mr. Jagger just said, which is that by separating the garage, it really breaks up the mass. Even though this lot is slightly bigger, 20 Erie, they have the exact same frontage. The zoning requires 90 feet of frontage in both 20 and 21. This one before us 75. The width of the house on this proposal is 36 feet. The width of the house that gave many of us pause, the other one was 55, 56 feet wide. So I'm going to put some numbers on it, just so everyone can understand why we're having a more positive reaction here. And then finally, the roof line. The 15 and 19 Erie have this type of roof. So it just is much easier for us to imagine this fitting right in the neighborhood, not overwhelming the neighborhood. The final thing I wanted to say is I take very seriously all the comments we get from neighbors. In this case, what I'd like to suggest, we have someone, a developer, builder who clearly has experience, has said that her practice does all the things that it should. But I think in order to give comfort to the neighbors, we might want to do conditions of approval, just to clarify some of the things they said. So for example, because there's the woods in the back, which they don't, that's someone who has a property on the street, but because there has been dumping there, and the applicant said that they plan to build a fence, right? Maybe we should require that, because I didn't see that the fence was on the plan. Just to give peace to everyone.
Anything further? Because I'm gonna, once we close deliberations, I'm gonna come to you with a motion that.
Yeah, sure.
Conditions. Having heard that, is that something that you would be agreeable to? You wish to hear specifically what?
No, absolutely.
Basically, is what you said.
Yeah, and it's not on the plans, but we do plan on, just a 6-foot stockade fence or similar all around the property, back and side.
I'll invite Mr. Agnew to structure a motion with conditions that doesn't need to be on the plan. It's sort of, it's baked into the approval, and we'll about take a vote once we go through that. So, deliberations are now closed, and I will entertain a motion. Mr. Agnew, do you want to?
Yeah, I would move to approve the proposal on the condition that the fence 6 feet height is built on the rear line. I'm not going to require it in the other two. I know they're intended, but it doesn't seem to be as much of a concern. I think that's it. I was going to also require maybe notice to the abutters at the time of demolition. Could do that too.
Sure. Right. Motion with two conditions is made. Do we have a second? Seconded, thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion with two conditions made and seconded, calling the roll, Mr. Swanton.
This, I can't remember the second, there's this one that trees. Neither.
I think it said no street trees or sidewalks required. Yeah, there are no sidewalks. Everyone's in the street. Yeah. Okay. All right, no worries. Motion is made and seconded, calling the roll, Mr. Swanton.
Yes.
Mr. Lat.
Yes.
Mr. Chin. Yes. Mr. Aguirre.
Yes.
And I vote yes, that is 5 in the affirmative, the ayes have it, motion carries, good luck.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very much for your presentation and your patience.
Thank you.
Appreciate
All
it.
right,
Thank you.
that leaves us with our fourth and final application this evening. This is the application of Salvador A. McKeel. Michelle, thank you. Salvatore A. Michelli, for the application of 24 Harding Avenue. This is an application for a special permit for nonconformities. The applicant seeks all necessary permit, permission, and approvals to demolish an existing home and build a new single-family home on a non-conforming lot. We have this evening Mr. Salvatore Michelli, the applicant, as well as his architect, Mr. Flores. May we hear from either of you or both of you, gentlemen? Sorry.
I was gonna hand it over to Oscar.
Very good.
Introduce myself, Salvatore Michelli. I've been in business 36 years. Well,
Very much. My name is Oscar Flores. I live at 205 Endicott Avenue, Revere, Massachusetts. And I assist Salvatore with this project. And just wanted to guide you through like the design process and some of the parameters that we use in order to come up with this proposal. We go to the next slide. So this slide shows basically three areas. Like the one on the left basically shows, 3 feet over our direct project, just because we wanted to see what's the surrounding, what is the massing and typology of the houses. The second one is the direct abutters neighbors that we also study, and we wanted to try to read their style and come up with a proposal. And of course, like on the right, we can see the aerial view of the existing house. And next slide, please. Now here, what we see is the plot plan. On the left side, we see the existing house. As we initially mentioned, this is a non-conforming site. And on the right side, we can see the proposed. Now, one of the guidelines to the entire project, of course, is go through the zoning guidelines and try to meet all the setbacks requirements and also improve them. So as we can see, the red line in the middle, that's the proposed house, and there is dash line all around it. That's the setbacks. So currently on the sides, we have not only 10 feet, but also we have 12, almost 13 feet to side feet. We have 14 feet to side 8. On the rear side, we have 35 feet, and at the front, we have 29 feet. We go to the next slide. This slide shows basically the minimum lot area, 18,000 square feet, but we have 7,725 square feet. The lot coverage is 25%, and we are just below the 25%. In the open space, we are close to 70%. And this is the certified plot plan. We are showing here that the driveway stays as is. We are just using the same. We are not changing it. Go to the next slide. This is this is the matrix, and I wanted to just go over like a few here. So the height, we have basically like 75% of the entire proposal. The height of the roof is at 30 feet. Currently, the existing house, it is at 18 feet, but this is just like a peak of the house. I mean, we, like, you know, when we were looking for the massing and the typology, we decided that most of the house is going to be at 24 feet, which is only 6 feet over the existing house. Now the peak of the area, like if we go to the next slide, that's gonna be helpful. So the top elevation, that's the existing house, and the bottom is the proposed. So on the left side of the proposed elevation, we can see the peak of the house, which is at 30 feet. And the lower part of the house to the right, that's 24 feet, which is only 6 feet, as I mentioned before. And one of the reasons that we raised that area of the house is actually to allocate and have some space for the mechanical, you know, elements, put it in the roof. If we go to the next slide. Actually, we can go back to the matrix because I wanted to point out. So the existing house has an area of 9, just like below 1,000 square feet. This area doesn't include the basement, and the current FAR for the house is 0.12. I wanted to point out that the number there for our FAR is not, it was a typo with the formula, but what we are come up with the FAR for the living space, which is like the first floor and the second floor, it's 0.39 for the FAR. Now, if we included the basement and the garage, which is attached to the house, we are at 0.61. Now, if we go to the next slide. So this slide shows, again, you know, this is elevation and proposed elevation. The following one, this one is the proposed, so this is going to be the basement, which follows the plot plan limits. The first floor, as we mentioned, this is going to be a cover and attached garage to the house, and the image to the right, that's the second floor. So we are proposing, so basically, like the house has a tandem parking space in the first floor that's gonna over, of course, like 2 cars. On the outside, there's one parking garage. We're proposing a 5-bed second floor areas. If we go to the next slide, please. Now this is the front and rear elevation. And again, like, you know, at the end of the slideshow, we wanted to show you some of the houses in the surrounding that we use as precedent to come up with this design. Next slide, please. This is side elevations. Next one. This is just section of the house. And you know, the overall idea is that we wanted to just give you know, a better space for the people living in the house. We wanted to just try to have kind of an open floor layout with spacious areas for the family. We can go to the next slide. These are the houses that we look at in the surrounding. We have 17 Harkin Avenue, 18 Harkin Avenue, 25 Hardin Avenue, 29, 2, Emira, no, I believe, Avenue, I'm sorry. At 25 Emira Avenue, at 12 Rosendale Place. Also, we look at Erie Avenue. We can go to the next slide. So this is some of the renderings that we come up with, and what we try to do is try to balance some of I wouldn't call it modern colors, but try to just give a modern look to the house. Still, we are proposing to have like a porch just to break up a little bit of the facade, the height of the building. That's basically the intent on all the elevations of the house. Go to the next slide. And these are like some of the renderings again, kind of like a perspective view and an aerial view. Next slide. And this is Hardin Avenue. This is 17, and this is 19. So, one of our intents is that we try to break, like, it's the two-story house into like we try to break the height, even though that we are not we're just going like mostly like 6 feet over the existing house, but we're still like trying to break the height and try to make it like a little bit more pleasant by creating porch, just like that entrance area. We'll go to the next slide. This is Hardin Avenue. That's pretty much like in front of the house. This is like a 2.5-story houses with gable roofs. We try to use kind of like the same typology of the house, kind of like the same height, just to have a language with the surroundings. Next slide, please. So this is Elmira Avenue. Again, this is 2.5-story. Well, to the right is like 2.5, to the left is like 1.5 with the dormers. The next one over. And this Rosendale Place, I mean, and Rosendale Place, I mean, this is one of the houses that we were looking at. Just trying to see like, how the house presents itself, how the massing and the typology can be useful to manage the same language, to say in our proposal. This is the same case with Erie Avenue. I'm gonna pass it to.
Anything further?
Nope, like just, we're trying to build a home that's within this lot. Like the only setbacks, the only, non-conforming now is that size 2725. Change that. But we're positioning the house, home, it's inside of the house. And I could check.
There's nothing further. We'll go ahead and close the presentation portion. We may have questions, but we'll move through the rest of our process. So, thank you for the presentation. Closing the presentation portion, we will now go to public comment. Anyone in the room wish to be heard on this application? Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Beth Phillips, and I live at number 22 Harding Avenue. I'm a direct butter. Home this evening. I have comments and concerns regarding the proposed structure. The lot size is one of the smaller on Harding Avenue on, the even numbered homes on that street. The pictures that were displayed earlier of the two-story homes are all on the opposite side of the street, particularly numbers 19, 25, and 29, all range in size from a third of an acre. This home area is 0.18, my understanding, for acreage. And so all the homes previously displayed, they are two-story, but they are on considerably larger areas. The pictures for both number 22 and number 30, which are direct butters, were not displayed this evening, which is concerning. They are both one-story homes. The size of this, will dwarf those two homes. From what I am seeing this evening, the other areas that were shown were also 1 to 2 blocks away. So I would ask the board to take that into consideration, that the direct butters were not displayed this evening. Some questions and concerns that I do have. There are many children on the street, including at number 22 and right across at number 29. There are many children, approximately 10 on the street actually, ranging in size from infancy to high school. I have 2 at 22 myself. And so concerns for traffic and fencing and notification of demolition. In the history of the homes that have been built on our street in the last, say, 10 years or so, there has not been great communication, especially concerning the one on number 29. Was, I believe the fall of 2020 was not completed until the spring of 24. At that time, I realized it was a different construction company, but concerns were there were fires left unattended at that home during construction in barrels. There was an increase of rodents in the area. There was debris in the street, including glass and nails. Concern being a direct butter is what fencing will be put up. There is a chain link fence that is owned by number 24 that abuts our property. And I'm concerned what we put up in its place, as I mentioned ahead of time, you have children, the dog. And a question that just came up, and I may have misunderstood the display up here, or the definition of the dimension of the driveway. I believe he said it was 14 feet in width. We had it measured at 11. I'm just looking for confirmation on that. Again, I understood him correctly that that driveway was going to remain the same. And so I think that is it for now. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Any further comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Hello. So on my Ave, the property that bus rear the proposed property. I also have a lot of concerns, very similar to what we just expressed. It's an absolutely huge building that they're trying on relatively small lot. You compare them against those 2 mansions I would call across the street from them. Those are huge lots, and those also do not fit the character of the neighborhood. I guess our previous application showed here, you go straight over, a lot of caves, and you can see the thing. 2,500 proposal was applicable to the neighborhood. This is just far exceeds that. I have some concerns about it.
It's just a huge house that's going on a rather small lot. I think the lot lines was one of the smaller ones on that side of the street, so. Have concerns with the side of the street, concerns with some of the mature trees on the side of the property, and it doesn't really fit the neighborhood. There are a couple houses that mansions that look similar. It's just extravagant. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks, sir. Any further comments?
Maybe I'll stop the 23 on Myron. Said that. I guess my real main concern is the height. All those avenues, we all have low fences. You're saying chain link fences or vinyl fences, but in any case, not very tall. Look, you can bring those pictures back. I know that the ridge line is supposed to be 30 feet, but the top window is probably 22, something like that. And I just have concerns with privacy. And it did seem like the renderings that they have there, kind of, it's not really showing how big it's gonna look on that lot. I think on the left, it kind of shows it's gonna be crammed right in there. That's what I think. Really, it's just the height that I'm concerned about. Being able to see in everybody and everything. Chip.
Any further comments? Seeing no further public comment in the room. Maybe seeing no online.
Did you want to address the board?
Yes, hi. My name is Barry Graham. I live in the abutter on the opposite side from Elizabeth. I am at 30 Harding Avenue. I am directly across the street from 29 Harding Avenue, which was part of the proposal. And I want to, I guess, reiterate much of what I've heard. In my chief concern at this point is the height of the building. At this stage, what would be the left side of this new building as you face it from the street would put two windows in that house about 12 feet higher than my bathroom window. In other words, somebody would be able to look directly down into our bathroom. So I am not only concerned about the look of the building in terms of its height, it's completely as rendered in what was presented tonight, it is out of step with this neighborhood. I can appreciate that they showed the two most recent construction projects on this street. They didn't bother to show any of the average houses on this street, which are considerably smaller than what they're proposing. And I have also as a chief concern, privacy, that they're going to elevate this and eliminate privacy from the neighborhood. It's out of step with the neighborhood. And I realize this is not a zoning concern per se, but I feel obligated to bring it up. As Elizabeth pointed out, 29 Harding Ave was under construction for well over 2 years. I live directly across the street from it, and I found it interesting that with street lights out on the street and an open hole where there was going to be eventually the house built, it was left in that status for a Halloween night. And Harding Ave is like every other street in the city. There are lots of children walking around on Halloween night, and a huge open dark pit is probably not the safest thing in the world. Again, I understand those are not zoning concerns, but they are neighborhood concerns. And for the last two houses that were built, I spent I don't know how much time picking up trash, watching temporary the temporary toilets, porta potties, if you will, that were put in place, leaking out onto the street. And those are my concerns, that we're going to see that yet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any further comments online? Anything further in the room? Seeing nothing further, we'll close public comment and go to questions from the board.
Yeah, my first question, I'd like to go back to I think the first neighbor who spoke, brought up the comparison to the other houses. Andy, could you put up the slide that shows, 17, 19, 25, 27, the list of the other houses? Actually, no, stick with that. 25, 29, when you shut up. Those are the two houses directly across the street. Correct. And, I was over there today just walking around. And I understand you put them up as comparisons. But if you look at the city's records, as was said here, those aren't much larger lots. 29, according to the city record, is a 14,000 square foot lot. Yours is only 7,700, it's almost twice as big. And similarly with the other one, it's on a 16,500 square foot lot, which is more than twice the size of your lot. So could you please address why it's okay to put the same giant house on a lot that's half the size?
So, I was just referencing these two homes, with the square footage.
Right.
So our square footage, is, the house is actually deeper. So that's how we know the square footage. So we don't have a massive white house. Most of the square footage is taken up by. So
You have to consider the overall look of the building as you walk down the street relative to its lot. And all I'm saying is, you didn't seem to consider the fact that those are much bigger lots. That was pointed out by the neighbor. I just wanted you to speak to that.
So with the lot size that we have. There are other lots on the other streets that most similar square footage. We took our lot size and basically came up with the setbacks. Others to use.
I appreciate the setback. I think the setback is a positive step. I applaud you for that. I just think we have to consider the fact that the lot is very undersized compared to what a lot is required. The other thing about these two lots here is they're also much wider lots. Those are like 100 feet wide lots. Yours is only like 75. So that I think is why the neighbors look at it that way, and we have to also consider, how does this house fit in the neighborhood? And so it's interesting to look at the list like you did, of sizes, but you need to also consider the size of the lot and the frontage. And these two houses have much larger, like if you had another column over there,
Right.
the size of the lot and the other one with frontage, I think it would all pop out much more clear. Anyway, I'd like to get off that question. I have a different question. Which is the height. Because several of the folks who spoke brought up height. And I think you have been pretty clear in your plans that the height of this building is 30 feet. Which you don't really show here with the height of the different houses, particularly on the smaller lots, but since quite a few neighbors said it's very high, I'd like to give you a chance to address them. How do you feel?
So there's only one peak that's at 30 feet. Like Oscar mentioned, 75% of the house. It's the roof line that's at 75% of the house. Only the left-hand side on peak is at 30 feet. Above the ceiling height is where we end up putting up where we put up mechanicals. So the windows are not. So it's at the second floors. So
I guess what I'm trying to understand, the house we just looked at, you sat through the previous hearing, it was 20 feet. This one's 30. So what you're saying, just that one peak, if you didn't have that one peak, the rest of it would be
25.
25. So it is also higher than other things we look at. Also had a question about your garage. Your garage is not a small garage, it is 14 and a half feet long by 34 and a half feet. I mean, I don't understand.
If most people want three cat. So we're trying to, we either standard or we're gonna use the permit.
Okay, so it's a tandem, you're thinking tandem. Okay, I'm trying to figure that, thank you. Also, how many bedrooms are in this house? 5, the second floor, 1 in the basement.
If so, people these days now, that work from home, you have, husband and wife or 2 adults in the house. There is 5 bedrooms upstairs, there's 4 bedrooms and a primary suite. So the working from home, we can consider some of those bedrooms as offices, or study, but they are basically labeled as.
Okay, so it's a 6-bedroom house, but somebody might use one of them as a study.
That's that.
Just the plans say it's a 6-bedroom house, I'm just trying to verify.
With it, there's one in the basement.
Yeah, 5 on the second floor, 1 in the basement, for a total of 6.
Right.
They also asked if you would, like the previous application, if you would, plan to notify the abutters, where you start, which.
So I walked the immediate abutters, all my information, my business cards. That is my cell phone. Body saw that another 30. 6 whatever. I'm always by my phone. Anybody can call me at any time if they see a problem. But we could figure out this. Some of the concerns were leaving it open. That's, OSHA does not allow that. So we put up a fence. Pumps to stay inside the, this, portable toilet. Never had leads. But we always take our workers' safety, community safety. Very serious.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Chair. I was looking at the zoning matrix and it states that the total new square footage is 3,648. Assume that includes the garage. Do you know what the living space is?
Yes.
When I did the math, it came out with 3,000. Does that sound right?
So the living space, yes, is 3,000.
3,000.
Yes.
The building with the garage is 3,600. And it's 48 feet long, where the old house was 35 plus the garage. So it's quite a large building. Andy, can you put up the drawing after the next one? I think it's the bottom drawing that's darker, you can tell. That building is like 160% bigger than the existing house, and almost. It's not quite twice as high. It's close. The old building is 18 and the new one is 30. The reason I'm asking is one of the things we have to take into account in neighborhood is the size of the mass. This on that lot, especially if you look at the 2 houses on either side, is going to be a massive house. It's really big. Yeah. Yeah. we were just looking at, Google Maps showing two houses on either side, two branches, 50 feet tall.
If you could bring that up, Andy. That tells the story.
Google Maps 24, and look at the street view. Yeah. So that's the house, and the house to the right's longer, but it's short. On the left is, again, longer, but short. This new house will be from the full left side of the old house to the full right side. We were just trying to get perspective.
Yes, just to give you like a little perspective. I mean, the proposed house, we are keeping the driveway. And basically like where the car is, right at that corner, this is where the house is going to be.
Right.
And it's gonna be like on the left side, it's gonna be like a little bit further in. So,
It'll be 30 feet tall on the left side.
right,
Will dwarf that 40-foot tree. It'll be big. You'll
and
drive down the street, you'll see this from everywhere. No. And again, the only reason we're asking is the perspective of mass.
right, and I mean, you know, one of the, you know, when we have like the architectural program, you know, like the main purpose is, you know, to just provide like a better space, like a good living space for the you know, for the coming for you know, the people are gonna live there. This house is going to be
It's big enough for a hockey team. Right, you have 6 bedrooms.
the basement, I mean, we put a bit, we didn't consider that as a bed, just because the basement isn't finished, the basement, you know, we will have, you know, a large portion in there for the mechanical. And we consider the basement just like an additional storage space. The living area will be like on the first and second floor, of course. And, you know, during the design process, I mean, we looked at the houses next to us. And that's why we wanted to, I mean, the renderings probably need, we will see how the renderings, like I can, like we have another options in the renderings in terms of like colors and appearance per se. But the main part of the facade is that we wanted to break that, like, you know, two heights. Just because we wanted to have, you know, we didn't want to like break the line of the houses next to us. That's why we put the porch, we put like a lower ceiling. And when we were doing the design process, I mean, we needed the second floor. Like we found that, you know, the first floor wouldn't be enough for what we needed. So that's what we built the second floor. But we had the intent not to just build something massive. We had the intent to follow the city guidelines and also try to, you know, fit in with the next house.
Okay. No other questions, Chair. Thank you. Very good. Further questions from the board? Seeing no further questions, I will close questions and go into deliberations. Who wishes to start? And again, we are deliberating the criteria that were unfamiliar to any of us, the special permit for non-conformities. Yes.
I'll go first, just because I'm the most impatient person. The curfew is coming up in 22 minutes. First, a statement, because, you know, I was a little surprised early by the reaction of the architect on 55th Street. You know, really, what we're just trying to do here is be reasonable. We're not anti-development. We're just trying to follow the law. So this one, I don't want the applicant to think that we have some vendetta against him or we're anti 2 stories. The architect was just saying, we need 2 stories. We respect. But we've spent a lot of time in the last 3 months in this very neighborhood. Erie Avenue, it's very similar. Then you already heard during the questioning period, Mr. Swan pointing out that the lots on this very street that do have large houses like this, they're twice or 3 times the size of this lot. So just to save everyone a lot of time, I couldn't support the proposal as designed. I could support another design, 2 stories, learning from all the work we've done this summer, how to get there. So for example, we just had a project at 21 that got approved. And we gave the reasons why on a lot of similar size with the same 75-foot frontage, you could find that fits into this neighborhood of old, post-World War II caves. So I think the applicant would do well to study that project. Another thing is, it's not, if you just looked at the code and you didn't look at our section about non-conforming structure, you'd think, well, I'm meeting the height restriction, so I'm done. But we're supposed to look at mass, meaning volume. So for example, it sounds like it's really just an architectural thing that we're nitpicking that, you've got these gables, but they make an enormous difference as far as volume. And that's why 21 Erie, when we approved, was so successful, is that they did a linear roof, that matches the pattern. They got 2 stories. I don't know how many bedrooms they have, definitely more. So that's another lesson. On the bedroom count, I do think it's relevant, and it's not for the reasons maybe that we had testimony on early this summer, which is sewer and water. The reason it's relevant to me is because of cars. So again, you're on a narrow street, and the builder has experience. He knows people generally want 3-car garages. When you start to get to a 6-bedroom house, it's a very small lot, it's a very narrow street, I very much worry about the cars, being parked in that driveway. It is relevant. One of the neighbors was saying, the driveway's already being proposed to be widened 11 feet to 18 feet. So you can see that is something we need to take into account. Is that more detrimental? And I would argue, say you had 6 cars parking here, that'd be more detrimental. I think we've also learned there's been bad experience in this neighborhood with that 29. And we've learned, and so we can do conditions of approval if we get there on notice of demolition and even rack control. Other cities do that, we can do that too. But I think the public needs to understand that it's a complaint-driven process. So if there is a builder who's not being responsible or following OSHA, this builder will, they have to alert the city and their ward councilor and get some enforcement. They don't have to suffer. So basically what I want to signal is that I can't support this as proposed. We've done a lot of work. We have a template that works for a very similar lot like this, which was 21 Erie. And I think if the applicant went back to the drawing board, they could get there. But I just think this is non-starter. Just don't think it's gonna get there.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. And further deliberations, comments?
If you, Andy, if you throw out the, up on there, it's the start of their architectural plans. It actually shows the grid of the neighborhood in pink. I don't know if that's on any of those slides, or if that's just in your, I pulled this off the website.
Is this in the presentation?
I don't think so. I pulled it off the website, but it's their architectural plans. And in the first sheet of it actually shows the grid of the neighborhood. And I think it really goes to there.
So this one here?
Yeah, if you highlight that, make it bigger. So the 2 big houses that you were shown were 19 and 25. Ken spoke of this. Look how big those lots are in 24. And it kind of goes to what Ken said and what Jared has said. The massing of this house is way too big for the lot that it's going on, but they're using comparisons of giant houses that are across the street, but the lots are much bigger. That really kind of brings into focus that the massing of this house, I can't support it. It's just too big for that size of lot. I agree with the comment, 6 bedrooms is gonna bring you cars. This is a small neighborhood, a tight neighborhood. You start bringing in 6 bedrooms, you're gonna bring cars with you, for sure. So that's as I was flipping through all their paperwork, that one thing is what really jumped out at me. In the comparisons they gave us, so this house is a non-starter for me. I look forward to other editions of it.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Swan.
Yeah, I mean, I too agree with my colleagues. I cannot support this. I'm just trying to be helpful to the applicant here. I mean, you saw earlier, I think Jared already mentioned this. I mean, you're trying to do 27,659 square feet above ground. That came in with 2,300 square feet above ground, yet really liked it because it didn't look as big on a small lot. Part of it is the garage running being a huge thing. And part of the house making the whole thing look bigger. It's a separate little building. Really helped make the whole thing look smaller. Not saying you need to do the exact same thing, just saying somebody came in with a proposal. Also on a very small lot, in a congested neighborhood. I wouldn't say congested, neighborhood of small houses on small lots. And they figured out a way to fit it in that pleased the neighbors and wasn't overly high. Wasn't 30 feet high, it was like 20. No, if they have mechanical, if you say mechanical, maybe they live in the basement, I don't know. But there's a lesson to be learned there. There's a way to fit in with this neighborhood. You don't have to do exactly what they did, but they almost got as many square feet as you look. So there's a way to do it. You may not have as big a garage, but but what you have here, I just think this picture shows it well. I mean, very small lot there for what you're doing. Interesting, 29 over there kind of confused me because 29 also belongs to 27.
Yeah.
So that
Double law.
took me a while to figure that out. Right. That kind of a double lot there. Anyway, so I feel badly for you to get to this point, but there's a way to get through this. It's not going to be quite as big. The garage may not be as big, but I think there's a way to do this. And it shouldn't be as tall. That's my advice. And you may feel like, well, the height fits the zoning and the setbacks fit the zoning. The problem is the lot size. That's why you're here. And we have to wrestle with, okay, well, what would fit on that small lot? That's what we have to struggle with. That's what exists to us. Just trying to give you some advice.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. Anything further? I'm gonna chime in as the chair. Gentlemen, I'll just say, it should be apparent, though with great respect and deference to a smooth process, that the members just numerically, who we've heard so far, almost render the application mathematically, well, not almost, it does. Based on the representation of members support, there's no mathematical path to passing this application. And what I always do is I try to take a pause in the process and offer any applicant the opportunity to themselves take a step back or request that we give them a continuance so that you are not heralded into a vote that could lead to a negative vote, because under the rules, if board votes to not approve or fails to approve an application, rejects an application, you could be barred for up to 2 years for bringing the same application back. We would never want that kind of surprise, ambush, even to befall any applicant. So I always try to take this moment to stop the presses, invite you to give some thought to, and then let us know, right here and now, whether you wish us to give you a continuance so that you can revisit some of these things. I would encourage you to take to heart comments that board members have offered. It seems to, if I might summarize without limiting that summary, it sounds like, obviously massing, scale, size, height, are key factors to what's before us that seems to fall outside of a successful model of what can work on a street like this with a lot like this. I believe Mr. Iverman had pointed out one application in particular that seemed to be very, very successful. It doesn't have to be identical to yours, but it's very analogous. It's different street, but similar street, different lot, but similar. Different scale and neighborhood, but similar. So, and what was that, 21,
Area.
21 year? All of this is available in the office and online. It's just of some, it's of some instructive note for you and for any applicant to have the guidance, what has gone before you and has been successful, to help guide you in refining this so that there's a chance that you could be successful. But I too can't support it as is, and I want to make sure I give you that opportunity. So with that, I'd like to come back to the board on the request to continue, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you like us to undertake a continuance?
Yes,
And how much time? Would you
We just meeting.
Well, as soon as, yeah.
4 weeks. Hey, August, do we have room on October?
Right now, we seem to have room on that night, but if you go,
What kind of room?
we have one that.
We just continue on. So we have two right now, and the.
This will be the, we haven't yet.
Okay, so, October 14th, right now is available. We have, a window seat on that. And I would suggest, just because our agenda packs up very quickly, and we're dealing with a comprehensive AKA 40B application that could land and would absolutely shut down that night, if it lands that evening, I would encourage you to let us know if that's the evening you'd like us to continue your application to. If not, it would be 2 weeks later.
No, it's October 14th.
14th? All right, very good. So, and we, every comment that you've heard this evening, hopefully you've received in the spirit in which it's offered, which is, a collaborative effort in light of the neighborhood and the neighbors, as well as city scale and sort of context of the street, that it is something that's more in keeping with the ability to be successful. So we are after good planning and good zoning and good land use built environments. So that's where this. With that, do we have a motion to continue to October 14th? So moved. Second. Wow, so motion's made and seconded by Mr. Delisle to continue to October 14th. Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Mr. Delisle? Yes. Chair? Yes. Mr. Iger?
Yes.
Mr. Ginter?
Yes.
I know. I'll vote yes to that is 16. The ayes have motion carries. Gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience and indulgence. You may want to attend again on the 14th of October. That's when this matter will come back. Any new submissions will be filed with the city and will be available as they were for the evening. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Rushing to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Very good. So with that, that concludes our public hearings. We'll close public hearings and go over the business meeting. We have the minutes of 8/26/25. Do we have any comments? And a motion, do we have a motion to approve the minutes or any comments?
Yeah, actually, I have a comment on the minutes that.
Did you see your email from me earlier?
I got the email. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'll just put in what you want.
Yeah, well, basically, I can, just to tell everybody here, Bud noticed. For the meeting. The discussion of the comprehensive permit. Said in their stormwater discussed at a special meeting on September 30th, and I'm proposing to add along with anything on traffic that might overflow. Just to be clear here, that night is, we talked about, might also include any overflow discussion if we don't get done. Our
hard stop. And anyway, that's the suggestion, Gretchen, it's in your inbox. That's the suggestion we made.
All right, any further comments? Motion to approve minutes with that comment, that is in Gretchen's inbox. Very good. Mr. Gidza, seconded by Mr. Swanton. All those in favor of the voice vote? Aye. Any no votes, abstentions? The ayes have it, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Thank you, Gretchen. So with that, I believe that Andy has mentioned that they will be publishing and pushing our change in board rules with respect to remote access. We don't have that before us this evening, but we'll have it next time. And what is the process?
One is I did not understand to be the market, but actually, Diane was done last week, and so it was not actually on your agenda. This meeting, so.
No,
It was, I had asked her to add it, but we're also trying to get a few markets. She was
Yeah.
aware.
so we didn't get to see markups. We really can't. But we're close. Any, okay, so with that, with the motion. All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, have a great evening. Thank you. Yeah, ladies, we want to come. Yeah. I can see this. You guys, this is a great way to kind of like a stress test. It feels like go to 10 p.m. Yeah. Jared. Go ahead before you leave. Yeah, sure. Yes. Let's make sure we start next time.
Yeah, I think we already agreed.
Agenda, posted agendas to let somebody else first.
Oh, I'll check with Diane. Again, Diane was out, she usually does the updates with us, so it might have been. Just in terms of the opinion, you would have started. You want to help me? Yes, I'll help you with, I'm more.
Great. Listen, yeah. Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Yeah.
Hopefully, I will be back. That question I asked, not. Hopefully, they'll have done. Yeah, I'd rather we chat with them. They might, but I just want to.
I agree, and because
I don't want to, we're not gonna.
there's some subtlety to this.
Yeah.
Because again, there is what's happened is we also have the, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be.
Yeah.
So I don't.
So I want to get a raw answer, so we have it in.
I also want to get.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I can't get shit. They go from 0 to 60.
Oh, yeah, it's.
Okay.
Have a good ride.
Right.
Good.
Have a good one.